The assembly will now come to order. The chief clerk will call the roll.
Assembly members Anderson, Backus, Brown-May, Carter, Cole, Considine, Dahlia, DeLong, Dickman, De Silva, Edgeworth, Flanagan, Gallant, Gonzalez, Goulding, Gray, Gurr, Hafen, Hanson, Hardy, Hibbets, Hunt, Jackson, Howdigi, Karras, Kasama, Koenig, LaRue Hatch, Marzola, Miller, Monroe Moreno, Moore, Mosca, Nadeem, Wynn, O'Neill, Orentlicker, Roth, Torres Fawcett, Watts, Urick, Speaker Yeager.
Here, Assembly Member Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record reflect we have 42 members present.
The record shall so reflect. We have 42 members present. That means we do have a quorum. Would members of the assembly and guests please rise? This morning we have the prayer by Chaplain Craig Swope from right here in Carson City from First Christian Church.
Good morning. Let's pray. Father, if this were a perfect world, we would have no reason to meet. But as we deal with imperfections, may we never forget that we are imperfect as well, and so we need each other. And it is that recognition of mutual need that brings us together. While our efforts may stop short of the perfect standard, we know that when we work together, we get closer to the mark we strive for, a state that considers everyone of value, a state that celebrates the gifts that we've all been blessed with, and a state that is familiar with the struggles that are battle-born. Help us to honor the best and improve on what we can as we pray in the name of the perfect life of your Son. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order of Business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Monday, February 17th, 2025.
Assemblymember Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to dispense with reading of the journal and allow the Speaker and the Chief Clerk to make any necessary corrections or additions.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. That'll take us to Order Business 7, messages from the Senate.
Senate Chamber, Carson City, February 18th, 2025. To the Honorable the Assembly, I have the honor to inform your honorable body that the Senate on this day adopted Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 1, Sherry L. Rodriguez, Assistant Secretary of the Senate.
Order Business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Notice of exemption, February 18th, 2025. The Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the eligibility for exemption of Assembly Bills Numbers 258, 104, 165, 187, 210, 224. Sarah Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 1, introduced by Senators Canizaro et al. And Assembly Members Yeager et al. Memorializes esteemed Native Nevadan, the lobbyist Kathleen Nina Laxalt. Senate Concurrent Resolution. Memorializing the esteemed Native Nevadan, the lobbyist Kathleen Nina Laxalt. Whereas born 2 months premature at a mere 4 pounds in Reno, Nevada. In 1957, Kathleen Nina Laxalt entered the world with an indomitable fighting spirit, and whereas the devoted daughter of parents Paul Dominique Laxalt and Jacqueline Ross Laxalt, Nina Laxalt grew up in Carson City with her 5 siblings and many cousins, and whereas Nina Laxalt was raised in the world of the law and politics with her maternal grandfather, Judge John R. Ross, serving as federal judge for the U.S. District Court of the District of Nevada from 1954 to 1963, and her father, Paul D. Laxalt, serving as Nevada's lieutenant governor, and U.S. Senator between 1963 and 1987. And whereas a proud product of the humble immigrants who settled in Nevada, Nina Laxalt, as a fourth-generation Irish descendant in Nevada, Nina possessed a keen sense of humor and refined gift of conversation, and as a second-generation Basque descendant, a clear focus and unfailing work ethic. And whereas, after the beginning her storied lobbying career in the halls of the Arizona Legislature, Nina Laxalt spent over 25 years skillfully navigating the legislative process at the Nevada Legislature and in other governmental arenas by providing valuable insights and fostering collaboration among policymakers, stakeholders, and communities. And whereas, in 2017, her colleagues recognized her significant contributions by inducting her into the Nevada Legislature's James A. Joyce Lobbyist Hall of Fame. And whereas Nina Laxalt has had a marked impact on many state policies, notably in the area of agriculture, ranching, animal welfare, and the well-being of Nevada's Native Americans and rural communities, she devoted innumerable hours in her leadership role planning the historic celebration of Nevada's sesquicentennial anniversary. And whereas Nina Laxalt mentored countless young professionals, especially women, and her guidance and support empowered them to flourish in their advocacy or political careers. And whereas an animal and nature enthusiast, Nina Laxalt became the guardian of the revered Laxalt family sheep ranch at Marlette Lake, following in her Basque grandfather Dominique Laxalt's footsteps. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the state of Nevada and the Assembly concurring that the members of the Nevada Legislature offer their deepest condolences to Nina Laxalt's daughter, Kevin Danielle, and her granddaughter, Grace Kathleen, and her 4 siblings, and her many cousins, and many lifelong friends, and therefore, and be it further resolved that the legacy of Nina Laxalt's distinguished lobbying career and service to the state will long be remembered and serve as an inspiration to others to embrace the role of a mentor or a tireless advocate for their cause. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of the Senate prepare and transmit a copy of this resolution to the family of Nina Laxalt, and be it further resolved that this resolution becomes effective upon adoption.
Assemblymember Mosca.
I move for the adoption of Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 1 that memorializes esteemed Native Nevadan and lobbyist Kathleen Nina Laxalt.
Assemblymember Mosca has moved for the adoption of a Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 1. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 1 is adopted. We're now going to move into Order of Business 15, and we'll go to Assemblymember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nina Laxalt was a friend of mine. And although we did not always agree with each other, we were able to disagree in a way that showed that we had a shared love of Nevada. One thing, or many things about Nina, she loved a good joke, that laugh. Those of us that know that laugh, and she was quick with it. Oh my gosh, so quick with that laugh. The other thing that was quick was her temper. I think that shows her Basque and Irish background and her ability to have a long memory. She would remember something that happened 10 years ago and be like, wait, you did this. And you're just thinking, that was a random Wednesday, but okay. One of the strongest things about Nina that was mentioned, and I think one reason why some people are so emotional about this today, is she took interns, and she took other females that were not always as welcome in these halls as they are today. She took them under her wing, and she would show us the ropes. And she would tell us, even if you're not in agreement with me, this is how you get things done. She respected and loved these halls, both our house and the other house, because she recognized that this is where Nevadans came in to talk with each other. And she loved that, and she protected it, and she celebrated it. But the other thing that she celebrated was her love of Marlette Lake and Nevada. And I think that they continue to, her dedication to this area continues to serve as an inspiration to all of us. And finally, as one of her friends stated, although she is no longer with us, her spirit and belief in us will continue to live on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Assemblymember Anderson. We're going to go next to Assemblymember Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in honor of a remarkable woman who graced these hallways, and I was able to call friend. Nina Laxalt, her willingness to work with anyone for the betterment of Nevada was a memorable attribute that she had. Nina was unique and always had a different insight on issues, and she often did that through humor. Like she did with so many in our state, she took me under her wing before I was even a freshman legislator. We had a chance meeting at a social event, and if you've ever been in Nina's car, it smells of tobacco, and it's definitely a mobile office. But at that event, we talked, and we realized we weren't on the same side of the political lines, but we were aligned on so many things about making Nevada a better place to live in. And on that night, we became friends. When she called me and let me know that she had had a diagnosis, I tried to remain strong during that call for her, while selfishly inside crying, because I knew that we were going to lose someone that understands what it means to serve Nevadans and to work across political aisles, to make sure that we build friendships, have conversations, have dialogues, even when we don't get along. That was Nina. And when I learned of her passing, I cried again because I knew we had freshman legislators that would never have that opportunity to meet this amazing woman. For her family, she was honest to a fault, even when it hurt. And she, like me, believed, tell me the truth, even if it hurts, because I will respect you for doing that. These halls will be empty without Nina. I will miss her. Our thoughts and our prayers are with her family and her friends, and for all the legislators that she has mentored over the years. And I feel very fortunate and blessed to have known her, to have been able to call her one of my mentors and a friend. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Assemblymember. And if I could take a moment of personal privilege, I want to thank the family for sharing Nina with us. Many of you know I lobbied in this building in the 2013 and 2015 sessions, and it probably is an understatement to say that I had really no idea what I was doing, and it was hard to know who to trust. But Nina very quickly became somebody who I could trust to tell it like it was, to always speak her mind and to be on the right side of issues. And I just want to echo that, I didn't get personally mentored by Nina, but man, she was a force in this building. And, her moral compass was just extraordinarily strong to stand up for causes and people that she believed in. And I think her legacy, of course, is demonstrated by everyone still in this building, whether they're lobbyists, whether they're legislators, whether they're staff members, everybody that she touched by the way that she conducted herself. And so while it's certainly a sad day because we've lost her, her legacy is going to live on and lives on in this building as we speak. And so I just wanted to express that I really appreciate her for who she was as a person and for always looking out for other people. There are certainly lessons there that we can all take in our own lives, and just want to remember her for the extraordinary, extraordinary Nevadan that she was. Assemblymember Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I could have Nina's family please rise. With us today to remember Nina Laxalt, we have her daughter, Kayvon Danielle Burris Laxalt, her granddaughter, Grace Burris Laxalt, who I believe is joining us in the gallery. We have her son-in-law, Brian Burris, and her cousin, Kristen Laxalt. On behalf of the Chamber, thank you for sharing Nina with us. And Chamber, if we would please help her family feel welcomed in our home. Mr. Speaker, if I could ask that my colleagues and yours and my remarks be entered in the day's journal as well.
The remarks will be entered into today's journal.
1 minute recess.
And we will take a 1-minute recess. Don't go anywhere. The Assembly will come back to order. We are going to go to Order of Business 9, Introduction, First Reading, and Reference of Bills.
Assembly Bill number 248, introduced by Assemblymember Marzola, ratifies the Physical Therapy Licensure Compact.
Assemblymember Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 248 be referred to the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assembly Bill 248 is referred to the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Assembly Bill 249, introduced by Committee on Ways and Means, revises provisions relating to fiscal notes.
Assemblymember Mosca.
I move that Assembly Bill 249 be referred to your Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assembly Bill 249 is referred to the Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections.
Assembly Bill 250, introduced by Assembly Members Goulding, Anderson, et al., revises provisions relating to certain debt.
Assemblymember Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 250 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assembly Bill 250 is referred to the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Assembly Bill 251, introduced by Assembly Members Koenig and Gurr, revises provisions relating to the inspection of meat and poultry.
Assemblymember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that AB 251 be referred to your Committee on Natural Resources.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assembly Bill 251 is referred to the Committee on Natural Resources.
Assembly Bill 252, introduced by Assembly Members LaRue Hatch, Roth, et al., revises provisions relating to the Legislative Department of the State Government.
Assemblymember Mosca.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 252 be referred to your Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assembly Bill 252 is referred to the Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections.
Assembly Bill 253, introduced by Assembly Member Mosca, revises provisions relating to civil liability.
Assemblymember Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 253 be moved to your Committee on Judiciary.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assembly Bill 253 will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Assembly Bill 254, introduced by Assembly Member Mosca, revises provisions relating to the legislature.
Assemblymember Mosca.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 254 be referred to your Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assembly Bill 254 will be referred to the Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections.
Assembly Bill 255, introduced by Assembly Member LaRue Hatch, prohibits certain provisions in certain employment contracts or similar agreements.
Assemblymember Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 255 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assembly Bill 255 will be referred to the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Assembly Bill 256, introduced by Assembly Members LaRue Hatch, Gonzalez, et al., directs the Legislative Commission to appoint a Regional Rail Transit Authority Working Group to conduct an interim study relating to regional rail transit.
Assemblymember Mosca.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 256 be referred to your Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assembly Bill 256 will be referred to the Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections.
Assembly Bill 257, introduced by Assembly Member De Silva, makes an appropriation to the Nevada School of the Arts.
Assemblymember Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 257 be referred to your Committee on Ways and Means.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assembly Bill 257 will be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
Assembly Bill 258, introduced by Assembly Members Moore, Kasama, and LaRue Hatch, revises provisions relating to brokerage agreements.
Assemblymember Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 258 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assembly Bill 258 will be referred to the Committee on Commerce and Labor. Okay, we will now move on to Order of Business 15, remarks from the floor. And we'll start with Assemblymember Backus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I am honored to have several of my childhood friends, along with their families, here with me today. These friendships are not only lifelong, but also stem from generational relationships. Some of these friendships started before birth with no option of becoming friends, or at school, whether it was in preschool or ninth grade. To maintain not only a friendship as we live in different cities, but to ensure that generations to follow become friends, we now spend one weekend together every year. Now, on the day following such travel to beautiful Lake Tahoe, I am honored to have a portion of our entire group here today on the 16th day of session. I'd like for these Vegas kids and their families to rise to be recognized. Stand up, please. We have the Nortons, the Levins, the McKinnons, the Grinnons, and the Dolls. This year is also very special as almost all of the Vegas kids have turned or are about to turn 50 this year. I am beyond humbled that each of them decided to delay travels a day to visit the capital of the great state of Nevada, where all of us understand that home means Nevada. Please help me recognize my lifelong friends and their incredible families. Thank you, Ms.
Assemblymember Considine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to introduce Seth Paulson, if you'd like to stand. Seth is originally from West Virginia, but he and his family moved to Nevada while he was in middle school, lived in Las Vegas. He is currently a senior at UNR, majoring in English, with aspirations to soon attend the UNLV Boyd School of Law. He is looking forward to working and meeting everyone here because he is my intern. If you could help me welcome Seth, thank you.
Assemblymember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce my guest today, Jackie Spicer. She's a lifelong Nevadan, raised by a single mom and a Clark County school teacher. In her free time, she loves to hike and camp in Nevada's beautiful public lands. Jackie's love for the outdoors led her to get involved in the environmental advocacy and campaigns to fight for a better world for all people. Now she proudly works as the coalition coordinator for the Nevada Environmental Justice Coalition. Please give Jackie a welcoming to our floor.
Assemblymember Hafen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I want to talk about a true American patriot. I know some of you have heard me speak of him once before, but one of my inspirations is Robert Smalls. His story is one of courage, perseverance, and unshakable belief in the ideals that make this country great: freedom, opportunity, and self-determination. Born into slavery in South Carolina, Robert Smalls was a man who refused to be defined by his circumstances. From a young age, he worked on ships, learned the waters of the Charleston Harbor, and developed skills that would later change his life and history itself. During the Civil War, Smalls risked everything. In the early hours of May 13, 1862, he and a small group of his friends stole a Confederate ship. With his wife, children, and others aboard, he navigated past the Confederate checkpoints, using the secret signals that he had learned while working the ships. As sunrise, he steered the ship towards the Union blockade and raised a white flag, surrendering the vessel to the Union Army. Smalls' bravery was not just a personal victory. It was a turning point. His heroism convinced President Abraham Lincoln and the military that all men could serve and should serve in the Union Army. He later became a symbol of American resilience, proving that determination and courage could overcome even the most oppressive circumstances. But Smalls didn't stop at freedom. He believed in service, in making his nation better. After the war, he returned to South Carolina. He purchased the house that he was enslaved in. He built a successful life, and then he ran for the South Carolina Legislature and became a U.S. congressman. A proud Republican, he fought for equal rights, strong communities, and educational opportunities for all. He believed in personal responsibility, self-reliance, and in the power of hard work to transform lives. A relentless pursuit of freedom, an unwavering commitment to service, and a belief that America is a land of opportunity for those willing to seize it. His legacy reminds us that true progress comes from courage, determination, and a steadfast belief in the American dream. May we all be inspired by his example of hard work, service to others, and never stop striving for a better Nevada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Assemblymember Flanagan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we all know, it is Black History Month, and we are very excited today to recognize Black History Month in the building, and I have the privilege of presenting and sharing some words with you today. In Nevada, Black History Month holds special significance as we reflect on the contributions of Black Nevadans and Americans who have helped shape our state and country's history. From the early pioneers and civil rights activists to leaders in politics, business, educators, and the arts, the Black community has played a vital role in Nevada's growth, progress, and success. I could talk for an indefinite period of time about the great gifts African Americans have brought to our nation. We are scientists, engineers, doctors, journalists like myself, lawyers, teachers, preachers, astronauts, artists, entrepreneurs, sports figures, and political leaders. Celebrating Black history in our state allows us to highlight the achievements of individuals like Senator Joe Neal, the first African American in the Nevada Senate, Senator Bernice Matthews, the first Black woman in the Senate, and Speaker Jason Frierson, the first Black Speaker of the Nevada Assembly. Trailblazers who paved the way for so many after them. It allows us to highlight labor leaders such as Dalton Hooks, Loretta Harper, and Hattie Canty, who were instrumental in fighting for workers' rights, fair wages, and better working conditions. It allows us to highlight the civil rights icons, such as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Daisy Bates, First Lady of Little Rock, who led the charge to desegregate the then all-white Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. We celebrate Black History Month not just because of who we are or where we have been, but because of where we are going. It is a reminder that we must continue to honor our past while forging a path forward for those who come after us. I'd like to welcome back to the Assembly my predecessor, Cameron C.H. Miller, current President and CEO for the Las Vegas Urban Chamber, and former Assemblyman for the great district of District 7, which I now represent, as well as the Reverend Kelsey West of Nehemiah Ministries. And I'd like to recognize all the guests who've joined us today for Black History Month. Please stand and be recognized. I also want to bring attention to special gifts that are at each member station. You have a special gift bag in your area, as well as a one-pager that highlights the history of African Americans in the Nevada State Legislature. As a Black woman, it is an incredible honor to stand here today and celebrate Black History Month, a time that is deeply personal and significant to our community and our country. Thank you for joining me in celebrating our achievements, and I hope you'll join us upstairs for some lunch. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Assemblymember, and welcome back, Assemblymember Miller. We have a nameplate up here that says Miller, but this one is for a different Miller. It's nice to have you back in the building. Is there any other order of business 15? Any other business from the floor? Okay, Assemblymember Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Some announcements for the floor. Today is Black History Day at the Legislature, hosted by the Black Legislative Caucus. There will be a luncheon taking place right now, everyone, from noon until 1:30, and a performance at noon in room 3100. They will also have a panel discussion at 4 p.m. in room 3100 and displays in the front foyer and gallery. This evening, we have the Welcome Back to Northern Nevada party, a reception and dinner hosted by Story County at the Bonanza Cantina in Virginia City from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. Tomorrow is the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance Day at the Legislature, as well as United Way Day at the Legislature. United Way will be hosting a breakfast from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. in room 3100. And as a reminder for the body, we also have our pictures next Tuesday, the panoramic picture. So I will continuously remind you guys until Tuesday morning. I'm seeing no other business before us, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Assembly stand adjourned and that we stand adjourned in the memory of Kathleen Nina Laxalt until tomorrow at the hour of 11:30 a.m., February 19th.
Assemblymember Howdigay has moved that the Assembly stand adjourned until Wednesday, February 19, 2025, at the hour of 11:30 a.m., and that we do so in memory of Nina Laxalt. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned in memory of Nina Laxalt.